You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. All right, folks, a recent report shows that artificial intelligence will impact 4.5 million jobs for African Americans. Folks, we have a 10% greater likelihood of automation-based job loss than other workers. Black men without a college degree are especially vulnerable. We're talking about what makes African Americans more likely to be replaced by artificial intelligence with Shireen Mitchell. She's a social analyst and diversity strategist. Okay, so Shireen, explain for the folks, first off, what the hell is artificial intelligence?
Oh, my goodness. Thank
Trust
you for
me,
having me,
there's
Roland.
a lot of people sitting at home going, I don't know what y'all talking about.
Automation. I think most people actually understand automation. You know, it's like the conveyor belts, right? We understand what that is. But I think the key part to this conversation is about the way that AI is operating right now in our systems. And one of the things about the way AI is working is also working against us as African Americans. It's not just about jobs, but it's the way in which AI tries to interpret for us and tries to present categories that are connected to us. So, for example, really, like if you remember the HP thing, there was a guy who was a dark-skinned guy who was trying to do the, AI recognition of his face on a screen. And basically he was like, well, if a white woman shows up in front of it or if a white person shows up in front of it, they recognize it. They don't recognize us. You've seen this also with soap dispensers where you put your hands underneath it. The technology doesn't recognize a black hand versus a white hand, right? It will dispense for a white person, but won't dispense for a black person. So the challenge that we're having with AI isn't just about jobs. It's about the fact that it is not able to recognize who we are and allow our participation in the technology framework.
Yeah, because first of all, when you talk about AI, it's been written by largely white folks.
So, absolutely. So,
Let's call it what it is.
Coding?
White folks are doing the coding.
AI? Who's the AI learning to be, right? Remember on Twitter, there was like a Microsoft AI that was just trying to just exist and having people respond to it. And ultimately, eventually became racist, right? Because people kept feeding the AI racist content. And so it started spitting out racist content. So yeah, AI is in any way, technology is not designed in a way that is beneficial to us because most of us are not actually designing it. It's being designed by other folks, mostly white males in the tech industry, who think that AI is sort of neutral, while they code in things that really simply we can identify. Like you can code in names, and names get coded. So Bob gets coded, but guess what? Does Shireen get coded? Shireen's name is classified as unusual, right? But Bob and Sally and Chris and Dave are all natural conversations in AI, and so AI picks that up. Those are the kinds of things about algorithms of oppression that really focuses on the ways in which AI and algorithms actually are disproportionately targeting our community.
But I do want to read from this story from the Business Insider. This is what it says. Here we go to my iPad. African American workers are at greater risk for job loss due to being overrepresented in the jobs that will face the most cuts after AI and automation take over, like office support secretaries, fast food and service workers, and mechanics and other practitioners of production work. About 34 to 36% of jobs in those three sectors will get disrupted.
Yes.
The disproportionate impact of automation could exacerbate the already widening racial gap. The wealth gap between the median black and white families in the U.S. has jumped $54,000 since 1992. White Americans own disproportionately more homes and hold less student debt than African Americans. factors that can be traced to historic redlining and discrimination in job hiring. But here is the paragraph that really jumps out. College education and gender will all impact how severely Black Americans will face job loss. 10% of Black folks are at risk for job disruption, but the number jumps to 30% for African American men without a college degree. In fact, the researchers estimate that 28% of jobs held by Black men without a college degree will get disrupted by automation and AI by 2030. Now, Black women are higher educated more than anybody else in terms of going to college. That's why you see that number in terms of 30%. I think what people have to understand when we talk about automation and AI, Shireen, that if you look at right now, I'll ask my panelists here. Panel, when's the last time you physically walked into a bank?
For what?
Never.
For real,
That's
it's
my
been
point.
a minute.
I mean, I ain't got no money, so.
Never.
But what has happened is what automation has done, what technology has done. Now you can sit here, snap a picture of a check.
Yep.
No need to actually walk in.
Yep.
You now have Cash App. You can do transfer of money, PayPal as well. And so what people don't understand, all of those jobs on the inside of that bank, the jobs that were in the drive-through, those were middle-class jobs that individuals had that did not require a college degree. Those were jobs that people had where they were able to take care of their families, buy homes, send their kids to college, and actually live. Those jobs wiped out. We can go down the line and look at, you go to a grocery store. You used to go to a grocery store, there were 10 to 12 lines. There were, at peak time, 10 to 12 cashiers. Now, it's 10 to 12 registers, only 2 are open, but you've got self-checkout where you got literally 10 different counters. You multiply that's 10 people who used to be at a grocery store, multiplied by the number of grocery stores in your city, in your state, in your country. And so when we talk about where these jobs, how we're losing these jobs, and yes, for convenience, this is scary as hell if you're saying that essentially a third of Black men without a college degree are going to be impacted by AI. Final comments.
So my final comment is this. There's 2 things that can be done around this. One is be the executors of AI, like learn how to be able to, create it and change the dynamics that are happening behind it. The second one is the key to this problem is we've had this conversation before. It's like TV, radio will take out jobs. Everything, like we've been here before about like print media will disappear when we get online.
It damn near has.
Well, yeah.
The contraction has been, first of all, classified advertising just decimated newspaper. That's where they're making their money. Oh, Craigslist, okay. Craig Newmark, you're the reason. And then, of course, and so the number of newspapers, jobs that have been wiped out. You used to have newsrooms where you had 200 people. You now have those newsrooms today with 40 people.
Yeah. No, I'm not disagreeing
first of all,
with any of that.
Essence Magazine makes more money off the festival than do the actual magazine. But go ahead, I'm sorry.
Because I tagged the journalism part of it, but because it is an example of it. But also, we have to remember that the key part of this conversation is also about the way in which AI is being used. In some ways, it's used negatively for African American community. Also, it's used in a way that can be positive. We have to figure out how to navigate this enough that we can change the dynamics of where it's going. I do think that the key part of this, and I want to make sure that we also remember this, McKinsey is also a challenging organization who put this report out. So we want to make sure that we are having the conversation as a balanced conversation. It's not, I feel very strongly, it's not just Black men who will be impacted. It is the Black community in general. And it's anyone who doesn't have a college degree. We are talking about working class frameworks where most of our community is actually working every day hard to get to, take care of their families. And we have to make sure that these things don't impact us in a disadvantaged way. We don't want the AI to be there for surveillance either. We don't want the AI to be there to take away jobs. And we don't want the AI to be there to participate in ways in which we get to what's the question, like, where it becomes disadvantaged for us as a whole community, and that's where we are right now. The question is, who's controlling it and what can we do about it? Mm-hmm. That means Congress has to have a conversation about this. That means that tech companies have to have a conversation about this. But we are having a conversation about this across the community. It's a very big challenge for multiple reasons.
Yep, absolutely. Shireen Mitchell, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having me.
I want to go to our panel here. Look, bottom line is this here. We had Spencer for the Joint Center for Political Economic Studies talking about what driverless cars is going to mean for, again, how African Americans are going to be impacted. What people have to understand is that if you look at the wealth gap in this country, you look at all those different things. We used to be a nation that made things. Now you look at money being produced on the East Coast, Wall Street, in terms of how it's being produced, they make nothing. So in terms of how wealth is being created, and the people who are being screwed are low-income folks.
That's right.
Folks who are in all those damn red states. Automation, the impact that automation is having, is wreaking havoc. And look, we got to be dealing with that. And that's why. And somebody thought I was joking when I was dead serious. This is what I said. If you become a master plumber, one, you can make high 5 figures, 6 figures. People thought I was lying. It's true. Two, guess what? You cannot outsource that to China.
It's true.
Because if your toilet is stopped up,
right.
There's nothing somebody can do over the phone.
That's right.
To unclog. We have to start thinking about, yes, tech job, STEAM jobs, STEM jobs, whatever you want to call it, STEM or STEAM, but also think about jobs that require a skill set in order for folks to be able to live.
Mm-hmm. Well, to put a little cold water on the hysteria, in the Middle Ages, there was a career called upknocker. What that was, if you lived in a place that didn't have roosters, there was somebody who would come and knock on your door to wake you up every morning, and you would pay them a pittance. That job went out of business when clocks were proliferated. Technology advances.
Of course.
Old jobs go away. So right now we have an ephemeral causeway to wealth that we've never had before. There are people in Nigeria right now with very limited access to technology who are inventing apps, who are inventing technology that are going to lift their families, their whole communities out of poverty. So instead of fearing poverty or technology as it comes, instead of fearing what's going to be the next thing, let's understand, well, because people are automating cross-country trucks now, instead of being a truck driver, you'll have the bandwidth and the ability to innovate in the future.
That's not what the fear is. The fear is that, as I said, I used the cashier at the grocery store and the bank teller. This is the problem.
The gap.
This is the other problem. See, the problem is you used to have high-paying jobs. Relatively high-paying jobs. The bulk of your jobs were there in the middle. And then your low-paying job were your customer service-oriented jobs, fast food restaurants, things along those lines, require tipping and all sorts of stuff along those lines. The problem? These jobs here. So you have people who are better educated, high student loan debt, but you literally have a shrinkage on those jobs in the middle.
Well, I think it's
and so now you have an abundance of jobs down here that aren't paying more, which is why you have the fight for $15 minimum wage. And no health care. Because remember, those jobs were in the middle. You had health care, you had dental, you had all of that. And so our economy has changed. And so when you see the fight for $15 an hour, when you see this battle for a living wage, it's because automation has shrunk has got those jobs in the middle. And so now what used to be low-paying jobs that were really for your teenagers and for other folks now has become disproportionate for folks ours. And folks are like, well, hold up. What we used to have here, we need down here because this is shrunk.
But at the same time, now more children today want to become YouTubers than want to become astronauts, because you can sit in your house and you can create a YouTube channel and become a multimillionaire. People can work in the gig-based economy. People have the
but the number of the number of multimillionaires on YouTube or the number of astronauts.
But
let's just be clear.
But instead of trying to get more cashier jobs back,
No, Robert. I'm not saying we're going to get more cashier's jobs back. Here's what I am acknowledging. I'm acknowledging that not everyone is going to get a 4-year degree. Mm-hmm. I'm acknowledging that not everyone is going to get a 2-year associate degree. I'm acknowledging that the vast majority of Americans are going to be high school graduates. And for a number of centuries, but definitely over the last 100 years, you had an infrastructure in this country that was able to say, depending upon your grade of education, you might be here, or in this section here. The problem is, you've got a bunch of people, those college degrees, who are down here.
Yeah.
And the problem is, they're not down here for 6 months. They're down here for 6 years. And the difficulty to be able to go up. And so we have to be honest with what is happening with automation. So look, I got phone, solar powered power bank. I get technology, but I'm also honest about the fact that we have seen a massive loss of jobs for those people without college degrees. And those people had the ability, and a lot of them were our parents. My parents. My dad worked at Amtrak, 25 years, cleaning the trains, able to send kids through college, raise 5 kids. What I'm saying is that there are job losses that we have to be honest about. Now the question is, how do we reconfigure an economy where it's not you either at the top or you at the bottom, and a few folks in between?
Yeah, and we're already seeing the implications of this shift. This is not necessarily something that's only going to happen, as you mentioned, 30, 40 years from now. We're seeing it now in our daily interactions. And what's happening in real life is that you have people who are well-educated people who are now trying to balance 2 jobs to be able to make ends meet at a level that a generation ago they could have done even probably better than that with just 1 job based on their level of education. And in terms of just being able to, I would love to be able to say just sort of, and we do to some point need to be able to adjust to this new economy, but the reality is that there is a digital divide in this nation. I come from a very rural area. To this day, there's no cable in my home. When I go home to visit my mom, there's no cable there, okay? So there are millions of people in this nation who don't even have access to the bare minimum, just in terms of being able to take advantage of technology to the point that they can master it to some level to be able to monetize it.
I mean, look, Derek, the reality is that the advance of African Americans into the middle class in this country, coming out of the depths of Jim Crow and poverty, was largely a result of industrial era jobs, where you had black men and black women who didn't have college degrees, but who were able to go work at Ford, at Chrysler, at General Motors, were able to work at other different places, making 40, 45, 50, 60,000, 70,000, overtime, 80,000, whatever, and able to, again, feed their family, buy homes, all of that. Our economy has shifted, and there's been such a massive loss of those jobs that, again, and so in an era where more people were going to college, now building up debt, which is why the student loan debt issue is huge. I'm not there on free college. And the reason I'm not there on free college is because, again, there's a cost to free college, which somebody has to pay, and you better figure out how you're gonna pay for that cost. But I also do believe, and a big part of this, there has to be, if this nation had a savings and loan crisis, some of y'all know what the hell I'm talking about, just Google it, where you had billions in assets that were sold off for pennies on the dollar. If we bailed out banks to the tune of 20 some odd billion, Trump has already given these farmers almost $30 billion. This nation has to confront student loan debt because that is, I think, a significant drag on this economy and on this issue right here.
I think it's going to, the same way we had a housing bust in 08, I think the same thing is going to happen with these student loans if we don't do something about it, because it is a crisis right now, and it's disproportionately affecting low-income and minority students, blacks in particular.
Oh, yeah. African Americans are coming. I mean, our debt is twice that of whites coming out of college and not making as much as they're making, so you absolutely exacerbating.
And I think that this artificial intelligence thing is not just affecting blacks, but it's low income, it's all its minorities, it's rural, people in rural communities, as she just stated, and senior citizens. And to Robert's point, I think you got to do a great job of putting this kind of stuff on and bringing it to light so people know about it, because most blacks probably don't even know about this thing right here.
Again, because you got a black cable network that don't show any damn news shows.
I was in Atlanta airport about 2 months ago, and I was ordering food, and I was able to walk up and get it, just put the number, boom, 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 put it in and go get your food. And I said to the manager, I said, man, what is this doing to all the jobs?
Right.
His comeback to me was, well, we still got people that's got to make the food. And he made me feel like I was an idiot for asking about the jobs that have been lost, and it was all throughout the entire Atlanta airport.
Oh, yeah.
Where you have so many people who don't think about the jobs that are being lost because they think about the food has to be produced, it has to be, and then all this kind of thing. But it's a lot of people who are lost behind this whole thing.
And you have to think about, you do have to think about, again, what those jobs were and how you were able, how people were able to work and feed. It's just, it is a shift that is real, that we have to own up and be honest about what is happening. And what it also has done, to the point about how black men are impacted, it's now made it perfectly clear you can't survive with just a high school diploma.
Right.
You've got to get a college level degree, and now debt also comes into play. Robert, final comment.
All right, 2 points. One, we're not going to go back to that post-war economy.
Not happening.
The reason is
not happening.
The reason that we had the post-war economy is because Europe and Japan and China were all flat. They didn't have any buildings, they didn't have any people. So that's why we were able to have the entirety of world production be in the United States of America, because we survived the war unscathed. But on the point.
Yeah, because all they shit got blown up.
Exactly.
Not ours.
Not ours. So we're not going to go back to that unless we have another war. Let's not do that. But on the other point, I think that now that we understand what the playing field is, we've known since the Jetsons, when they had Rosie, the robot maid, that robots were going to start taking jobs. We have to start teaching people for the jobs of the future. We have to start understanding that a college degree is worth less now than probably at any point in the last 50 years, because so many people have them. So many people went and hid in college and in grad school during the Great Recession. Then now jobs are looking for work experience. They're looking for certification. You can get knowledge on the internet that can give you the experience and the certifications you need to get those jobs in the tech field. Let's stop just preaching to people, go get that job at the, working at the loading docks. Those jobs don't exist anymore.
Nope,
teaching
gone.
Jobs of the future.
Gone. The area, let me tell you something. 2 areas real quick. One most important, healthcare. I don't care what, that has been consistently in the last decade, number 1, number 2 in terms of job creation. Number 2, which is also tied to healthcare, let me tell you something. Y'all need to go get you a job in physical therapy. Let me tell you something right now. If you got a kid who does not really want to be at that 4-year school, tell your kid your ass can become a physical therapist. I'm trying to tell you. Okay, I had a torn right labrum, 2012. I had to have surgery. Had to do rehab. I've also done rehab of my shoulders. I've been in rehab 2 or 3 different times. Jam packed.
Yes, it is.
Why? Because we're not doing most stupid shit. We'll talk about check. Yo, more Americans are jumping their asses out of planes,
Skiing,
rock climbing, all that crazy shit. A whole bunch, even black people doing some of this crazy shit. Okay? And what's happening, they breaking shit.
Yeah.
You still got dudes, y'all know some of these black guys, 45 years old, still think they Michael Jordan. Their ass is hooping. Blowing ACLs, blowing Achilles.
Rotator cuff.
There you, all of that. Sound like you got personal history.
Yeah, I do.
All of that. Their ass is gonna need rehab for 6-9 months. Every time I go to rehab, packed. I was like, man, if my ass was not a journalist and I was trying to figure out, I would be solely focused on opening a rehab joint. I'm telling you, it's the real deal. All right, y'all. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. All right, y'all, as the marijuana momentum continues, the folks at 420 at marijuanastock.org have already reached more than half of their funding goal for the hemp CBD crowdfunding campaign. That's right. If you want to take advantage, you better do so real quick because it's not going to last much longer. I'm talking about the hemp plant, the good cousin of marijuana, with a much higher concentration of CBD. That means hemp gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Robert says thank you very much. Also, hemp farming is now legal in the U.S., creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. It's an investment opportunity for you. And the folks at 420 Real Estate, this is what their business model is. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed high-paying tenants. They are hemp CBD landlords. If you want to participate, you can do so for as little as $200 up to $10,000. Again, $200 up to $10,000. All you got to do is go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org. You can get in the game and get in the game now. Now back to your Roland Martin Unfiltered video.